Wall Street on edge, Trump's tariff war sparks new clash with Fed Chair Powell. Wall Street is rattled once again. Investors, already nervous from recent market volatility, are now digesting a powerful warning from Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. President Donald Trump's unpredictable economic policies, especially his aggressive tariff plans, could inflict long-term damage on the U.S. economy and hit Americans directly in the wallet. This growing tension between the White House and the nation's central bank is fueling fears of lasting instability as markets slide and the political rhetoric escalates. Powell's stark warning speaking at the Economic Club of Chicago, Powell didn't mince words. He expressed deep concern over the sheer magnitude of the tariffs Trump has proposed, noting they could lead to a dangerous combination of higher inflation, slower economic growth, and rising unemployment. The dual mandate of full employment and price stability is being pushed to its limits, Powell warned. If forced to choose between them, we must prioritize the more urgent threat, likely inflation. His remarks, interpreted as a clear signal that interest rates will remain elevated to combat inflation, even at the cost of economic growth, triggered a sharp sell-off in U.S. equities and heightened fears of stagflation, a toxic mix of stagnant growth, high inflation, and rising joblessness. Trump's fiery response, President Trump, true to form, fired back just hours later on his social media platform, Truth Social. Too late. Jerome Powell of the Fed, who is always too late and wrong, yesterday issued a report which was another and typical complete mess, Trump wrote. Powell's termination cannot come fast enough. That comment, provocative and unprecedented, immediately reignited a long-standing legal and political debate. Can the President of the United States fire the head of the Federal Reserve? Can Trump really fire Powell? The short answer, not legally. The Federal Reserve operates independently of the executive branch, and its leadership is protected by law. Powell's term doesn't expire until May 2026, and removing him prematurely would require a valid legal cause, something past Supreme Court rulings have made clear. Legal experts point to the landmark 1935 case Humphrey's Executor vs. United States, which established that leaders of independent federal agencies like the Fed cannot be dismissed by the president without cause. While some ambiguity remains, no sitting president has ever successfully removed a Fed chair mid-term. Still, the very threat undermines the institution's perceived independence. As one analyst put it, just talking about firing the Fed chair is enough to shake investor confidence and call into question the U.S.'s commitment to stable, apolitical monetary policy. Political interference and market fallout. On CNN, White House correspondent Elena Tran confirmed the growing unease. President Trump has repeatedly hinted at removing Powell, not just during this term, but even going back to his first presidency, she said. While it's unlikely he can do it, just making the threat has real consequences. Trump has long harbored frustration with Powell, whom he appointed in 2018. At one point, Trump infamously called Powell a bigger enemy than Xi Jinping, the president of China. His core grievance? That Powell hasn't been aggressive enough in cutting interest rates, especially compared to moves by the European Central Bank. Yet, Powell has stood firm, stressing the Fed's independence and adherence to data over politics. We are never going to be influenced by political pressure, Powell said. People can say what they want, that's fine, but our decisions are guided strictly by economic conditions and law, tariffs, trade, and turmoil. The heart of the dispute is Trump's escalating trade war, a strategy that has already drawn criticism from economists, lawmakers, and business leaders alike. Powell echoed what many fear, that Trump's tariff regime will backfire by raising prices for consumers and making it harder for U.S. businesses to compete globally. In an interview, Congresswoman Chellie Pingree, D. Maine, voiced those concerns from her district's perspective. We're hearing from business owners across Maine who are terrified, she said. Our industries, lobsters, blueberries, lumber, are deeply dependent on trade with Canada and even China. This unpredictability is devastating. Pingree added that many constituents supported the idea of protecting American jobs, but didn't expect this level of chaos. They thought there'd be a sensible, systemic plan to revive manufacturing. Instead, it's scattershot, and now they don't know what to plan for tomorrow. Democrats divided on tariffs. Despite widespread opposition among Democrats to Trump's tariffs, there remains some division within the party. Maine Congressman Jared Golden, for example, has supported certain trade barriers, reflecting frustration over the economic toll of past free trade agreements like NAFTA. Trade is complex, Pingree acknowledged. Some Democrats see tariffs as a tool for restoring U.S. industry. But it's the president's erratic application that's the problem. No long-term investment in infrastructure or labor, just knee-jerk decisions that spook businesses. The Fed's Balancing Act Powell's comment suggests that the Fed may be bracing for a new economic reality, one in which it must fight inflation without the usual support from fiscal policy or trade stability. The chairman laid out a clear roadmap, said CNN analyst Richard Quest. If inflation persists due to tariffs, the Fed will prioritize price stability over employment. That means higher rates even if job losses rise. That's not just policy, that's survival. Quest also emphasized that Trump's continued undermining of the Fed could cause long-lasting harm. Even if he doesn't fire Powell, appointing political loyalists or pressuring vice chairs sends a signal to markets. The Fed is no longer independent. That's the real danger. What comes next? The fight between the White House and the Fed appears far from over. With Powell's term set to expire next year, Trump may yet attempt to reshape the central bank in his image. Until then, every signal, speech, and social media post will be parsed for hints of further escalation. For now, Powell is standing firm, and Wall Street is watching every move. Markets can handle bad news, one trader said. What they can't handle is unpredictability. And right now, we're drowning in it.